ओम ज्ञानस्तिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकथामयं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकर्मं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपकांत राधा कांत नमस्ते। सप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वपानुसुदेवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे। नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone to my presentation, Samputika presentation on Srimad Bhagavatam, and my title is I believe I am audible. Good. So I'm visible also, I believe. Srimad Bhagavatam, the usual manual for 64 limbs of sadhana bhakti, as executed by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. This is my Samputika thesis. So before I begin the Samputika thesis, let me invoke Srimad Bhagavatam and the prayers for the mercy of Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Daivim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtikim Shenavatam Swagata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hridayantastha hi abhadrani vidinoti suritsatam. So my Samputika thesis starts with a Mangalacharan I composed, because I understand that this is our tradition. So whatever I was capable of, I composed this verse in Bangla, praise of Srimad Bhagavatam. ভাগবত ভান্ডার থেকে আনিলাম কিঞ্চিত সামগ্রী, ভক্তি রসামৃত সাহায্যে হলো ভোগ তৈরি। মা রাধা মাধব এবং কৃষ্ণ বলরামকে করিলাম অর্পণ, খুশি হয়ে যাতে তারা করেনি নৈবেদ্য গান। It means that may Shri Radha Madhava Varsaki, Shri Krishna Balram, and Shri Mayapur Chandra, I didn't mention the name, be pleased by this endeavor and accept this Naivedya, worshipable offerings, whose ingredients have been collected from the storehouse of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So with this recipe, I offer it to my worshipable deities so that they may have accepted and be pleased. So let me introduce my topic by quoting a verse which is used in Chaitanya Charitamrita, stating the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's quite a long verse, but quite a popular verse. Arthoyam Brahma Sutranam Bharatartha Vinirnyaya Gayatri Bhashyarupa Sau Vedartha Parimbita Purananam Samarupa Shakshat Bhagavadodita Dvadash Skando Yuktoyam Sata Vicheda Samyutaya Granto Ashtadasha Sasha Srimad Bhagavata Abhidhita. means, as you can see, the meaning of Vedanta Sutra is present in Srimad Bhagavatam. The full purport of the Mahabharata is also there. The commentary of Brahma Gayatri is also there and fully expanded with all Vedic knowledge. Srimad Bhagavatam is the supreme Purana and is compiled by the personality of Godhead in his incarnation as Vyasadeva. There are 12 cantos, 335 chapters, and 18,000 verses. As quoted in Chaitanya Chaitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter number 25. This is Sanatana Siksha, verse number 143, 144. So with this introduction comes my thesis and my postulations. But before that, I am raising some questions as the Purva Paksha arguments. So if Bhagavatam, so this is my setting of the scene. If Bhagavatam, okay, so much, okay, let me go back to this and before I throw in the real masala. So much has been written and said about the greatness of the Bhagavad Purana, especially in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. It posits some critical questions on which I built up my theory and my thesis. First question is, if Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, the Gayatri Mantra, Vedamata, mother of the Vedas, as we saw in the verse in Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Second, if the Bhagavatam, the subject of Bhagavatam is Krishna, as we understand, Krishna is to Bhagavan Swayam, and first canto, third chapter, verse number 40, verse number 29, verse number 41. So, and third, Bhakti is the sole means of attaining Krishna in 11th canto, Bhaktayaham Ekayagaya. Then, the postulation is Bhagavatam must be by himself. I didn't use the term itself because I find himself to be more personal. Himself a complete guide to execution of sadhana bhakti with its 64 limbs, as identified by Srila Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, first canto, second chapter, verse number 73 to 95. Second, Bhagavat must be by himself sufficient to help attain para bhakti, which means prema bhakti, through which Krishna can be attained. Krishna Akarshani, which is one of the 6 characteristics of bhakti, especially prema bhakti. Third, Bhagavatam must include all the commentaries and purports of our previous acharyas and considered a limb of the continuous Vedic tradition. So the idea is that one book should be sufficient, and that book in Bhagavatam should be sufficient for a sadhaka to execute sadhana bhakti, all the limbs of sadhana bhakti. Because if Bhagavatam is the essence, be all and end all of all the Vedic tradition and all that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas basically aspire from and draw all their conclusions from, as we understand the 6 Goswamis, all their literature are expansions, the Chat Sandarbha, the expansion of the Bhagavatam. So then it naturally comes that Bhagavatam should be the user book by which, using which a sadhak can execute complete devotional service. So, although the entire Vedic repository is with us to help us along the way, but still, since Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically chose Srimad Bhagavatam as the Amal Puran and Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam, so therefore, it should be able to do justice to this question. So here is my proclamation or declaration. So my declaration is the basic objective, as I said, all the limbs can be executed by carefully studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, first and foremost. Which means, if I elaborate a little bit upon that, so I will provide samples as evidence And it is going to be around the same thing. Discovering the Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojan of 64 limbs of Bhakti with reference to Srimad Bhagavatam. So because if every limb of Bhakti doesn't have the Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojan aspect, and it cannot be traced back to Srimad Bhagavatam, how am I going to execute my Bhakti? How am I execute my sadhana Bhakti with the help of Srimad Bhagavatam? So the list of the 64 limbs of Bhakti has been taken for nectar devotion. That's why I've used the photograph here. And it goes back to the original source book, Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, these are some of the samples. Say, for example, the first sample being Guru Padashraya. Say, for example, the first of the 64 limbs of Bhakti, Adav Guru Padashraya. So as we understand, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, Tasmat Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Seyo Shaya Uttamam Shabde Pare Chanishnatam Brahmani Upasamashayam. So with that, as the statement, let's go into the whats of Guru Padashraya, the hows of Guru Padashraya, and the why and the prayojan of the Guru Padashraya. So as Srimad Bhagavatam in 4th canto, 12th chapter, verse number 49 and 50. So I have picked it. Tirtha Pada Padashraya Ne Chams Tatra Manam Santushtya Iti Siddhyati. Taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead without desiring any remuneration, the mind is pacified and becomes perfect. So taking shelter is like Guru Padashraya is like taking shelter of the lotus feet of obviously we are taking shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna through the agency of the transparent via media of Krishna, the spiritual master. And doing so, and with the desire, without any desire for material remuneration. And by doing so, we become perfect. The basic what or the sambandha. Let's see how do we do that. As Bhagavatam tells us, is a purport. Lord Krishna wants everyone to surrender unto him. And this surrendering process begins, what says, when one touches the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. When one touches the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. So then if somebody asks us, like, how do you do that? So it like the symbolical aspect is the touching the lotus feet of the bona fide spiritual master. It means, what does that mean? Touching the lotus feet of bona fide spiritual master means giving up one's false prestige and unnecessarily puffed up position. So this is how we execute the limb of Guru Padashraya with the help of Srimad Bhagavatam, as Bhagavatam is saying, by touching the lotus feet, giving up false prestige, giving up false position. So as the karmana aspect is there by touching the lotus feet, and the mana aspect is there by giving up all these things from the mind. This is the how. Let's see what happens. The why or the prayojan. So here again in 9th canto, this is the famous verse spoken by Ambarish Maharaj. And there it is said, Yatha Uttama Shloka Janashaya Rati. If one takes shelter of a devotee, such as Prahlad or our spiritual master, this is the way to increase attachment for the Lord. By taking taking Guru Padashraya, which is again like any other limb of bhakti, an eternal and continuous process. So our attachment for Krishna, the Rati, increases. That is the result. Even in 1st canto, 10th chapter, verse number 3, it says, Pravitta Vijnana Vidhuta Vigrama. And then like Ajita shared, I didn't quote it the whole verse, but it says, engaging himself in matters of perfect knowledge, because all his misgivings are eradicated, protected by the invincible Lord. When we do that, so then when we are engaging in that Guru Padashraya thing, so then all the misgivings are eradicated. So then that is the result of doing Guru Padashraya. Okay. Pravritta Vijnana. So then we are, Pravritta means we are impelled to this spiritual science. And Vidhuta. So that it, Dhuta means like washed away, cleans up all the Vibhrama, whatever is there in the mind by doing this, by touching the lotus feet of the spiritual master. So all these things are washed away from the mind. That's one example of that's one limb of bhakti I took as a sample to prove that how Bhagavatam can be used to this. So my entire thesis is based on all the 64 limbs and how the different, any of the 64 limbs can be traced back to the Bhagavatam and how they can be, what it is, how it is can be executed, and what would be the result when we execute that. So before I go to the next limb, if anybody has any question here, so then we can take that, and otherwise I will go to the next limb as another example. I will put a couple of examples, and then I will also connect them to how this thesis is in accordance to the basic mood and mission of Prabhupada, how it can be used for preaching and certainly for personal application. Do you have any question or comment on this till now? Otherwise, I will move on. All right, so let me move on.
Just one question for you on the same what part. Just want to correct my understanding on the same. What part is establishing sambandha with the living entity, sambandha with the Lord? That
yeah, the sambandha part. Yeah, the sambandha part of the bhakti. So the sambandha part. How do we establish like the what? How do we establish what is the basic? Like how do we start? Why like the defining? Come again?
I think Jay going to okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, because the screen is on, I cannot see everybody. Sorry. So, so that is what means the sambandha part. That means like to know. So when we want to know, like what is this, what is that? That is the basic sambandha in relation to Krishna. How do we establish our sambandha to Krishna? So this is the first, like Guru Padashraya being the very first one. How do we do that? So why, like that's the what it is, like how is it doing this? And then I mean I'm using the term how. The point is like what is this part of bhakti? So what is this basic part of bhakti called Guru Padashraya? So why do we need Guru Padashraya? What it is? So then after we understand what it is, then we see how we can execute this limb of bhakti in the service of Krishna. That's the idea. I mean, although when we're talking about Krishna consciousness, all the sambandha, avidya, prayojan, they will work together. But just for the sake of understanding, I have divided into what, how, and why.
Thank you so much.
Should I move ahead? All right, I'm moving ahead. There's no question coming. Another, let's have another sample. Say, for example, the fifth limb, Shad Dharma Pracha. How do you do that? I'm deliberately focusing on limbs which are lesser known or lesser discussed in this presentation, because the things which are more discussed that we are aware of. So things which are not so much discussed, although the thesis has got all the aspects, but I specifically chose these parts to address them during the presentation. Sadharma Pracha. So what is it? Like speaking about the or inquiring about the eternal principle, religious principles, which is bhakti. So as Bhagavatam also says in quite a few places, avagatya jigyasaya. So as we understand, like in Bhagavad Gita, it says tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upajikshanti te jnana janinas tattvadarshina in fourth chapter, verse number 34. So it is the same thing in a more advanced, we find that version in Srimad Bhagavatam. So avagatya jigyasaya, philosophically inquire about the truth. So that is part of devotional service. That is one of the limb of devotional service. In fact, Rupa Goswami says the first 10, this being the fifth one, like they are the most important. And among the first 20, the first 5 are most important, this being the fifth one. So for the sadhana bhakti, the first 5 are most important. So, Varyanesha Prashna, even we see when the first canto ends and the second canto starts with praise by Shukadeva Goswami for Parikshit Maharaj for the kind of questions he could raise. And there he says, simply by such questioning and hearing, one can achieve the highest perfectional stage of life. So, both the things, I find that generally the credit is given to Parikshit Maharaj for sitting there for 7 days and nights without blinking even and drinking the Srimad Bhagavatam. But I also feel that the equal credit goes to Shukadeva Goswami for rendering Bhagavatam in such a way that one forgets he's eating and sleeping for 7 days and nights. So both the Shravan and the Kirtan. So here, this matter of asking questions and answers, that forms the very basis. And this is again a limb of bhakti. No wonder why Srila Prabhupada kept question and answer as a part of our sadhana in the morning Bhagavatam class, in the evening Bhagavatam class. We see many places, and in YouTube nowadays, it's very easy to find out that there are like uninterrupted and uninterruptible monologue going on with no scope for question and answers because they don't understand that question and answer is part of the limb, essential limb of bhakti. Question and answer is not exactly to, like kind of trying to attack the speaker. But question and answers are there to elicit the matter more clearly and elicit a response, which increases our Krishna consciousness. So that is the what. So as part of our sadhana, we must ask questions when like the opportunity arises. Now, how do we do that? How do we do that? So in like you see, this is the second canto, first chapter. Before that, in first canto, 19th chapter, Parikshit Maharaj, by his own example, demonstrates that. Pranamya murdhanavadita kritanjali natva gira shunit sunnitrya anva prichad. Offering his respects by bowing before him, that means bowing before Shukadeva Goswami, and politely inquiring with sweet words and folded hands. So we see all of that. Karmana, Vacha, Manasa. All of the 3 aspects can be seen, has been demonstrated how we do that. And Parikshit Maharaj is doing that with Shukadeva Goswami, that with his body he is bowing down, and with his words, their sweet words, is inquiring, hands folded. So, and the temperament is like the body, mind, and the words. They are like in a submissive inquiry, the mode of inquiry that should be submissively done. Jigyasayaham namami sadharma vidam. Even in third canto, we see Devahuti. This is basically Devahuti, like doing the same thing with Kapil Muni. So that from that section I picked up this verse. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you, who are the greatest upon transcendentalists, and I inquire from you. So she is glorifying Kapil Muni as the greatest of the transcendentalists, and then therefore, and that is the very reason she is inquiring. Unless and until you have got that kind of trust in the speaker, what is the point asking questions? So now what happens when we do that? Bhagavad Dharma Charya Jigyasaya Adhyatmika. So attachment for the Supreme can be increased by discussion. Bhagavad Dharma. Charya means practice of Bhagavad Dharma. Okay. Jigyasa Adhyatmika, and this is the jigyasa, the inquiry about the spiritual matters. inquiring about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These actions are pious in themselves. So when we do that, they are pious in themselves and they increase our attachment for Krishna. That is the purpose of any limba bhakti. So this is another example. I used two samples. Let me now move on. Yeah, I saw a hand up somewhere.
Yes, Puji.
Go
So
on.
I find, I mean, kind of a repetition here, because if you see the word part here, when we define Sambandha, it also explains the Prayojana also. One can achieve the highest perfection stage of life. So could you,
Yes.
I mean,
Yes, so thank you very much for bringing that in. Then that is in Bhagavatam 7th canto 13th chapter, I think verse number 25. Let me see if I can pull that for evidence for you. The Prabhupada says that a similar verse can be used for multiple purposes, and the similar verse has got Sambandha, Abhidaya, Prayojan all pulled into them. So then sometimes we might highlight a particular section as it is talking about the Sambandha, but another time, like another section of the same verse can be highlighted to elicit the Prayojan or the Abhidaya part. It's like, it's not in Bhagavatam, that's like there have been the Bhagavatam has been divided into three parts. All the Sambandha verses goes in the first 3 or 4 cantos, then the next, then one in the, so then they're all mixing together. But then you find out by like that is talking about the more philosophical definition. Then you discern that with the second, that how do you execute that devotional service, and third, like what is the benefit. Just like if you talk about the benefits, then one of the ways you can clearly get an idea when you go to the Falashrutis. Falashrutis are generally not talking about the what's in the house, they're talking about the benefits. But then the whole of the Bhagavatam, they in many times they talk about the benefits, not for the sake of the benefits, but because it's just the way it is, like you execute Krishna consciousness, that itself is a benefit. So all these things are like basically and for the sake of and philosophical understanding, we are delineating them into these three parts. Okay. We'll find more of that. We'll find more of that day. Let's have some preaching applications. So for example, a limb called Sakyam might find it very difficult for as like how is it connected to the preaching application. But Prabhupada and in his Bhagavatam purports, he quite clearly brings this out. So then friendship arises, and it's because this is a part of sadhan bhakti. So this friendship is not a rasa. This is a sadhana bhakti limb. Okay. So friendship arises either from trust or from kindred spirits, not bandhu. It's like more, the first one being more on this sadhana part, the second one goes more towards the raga part and the more esoteric part. Okay, let's see how the famous verse, Shamanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Vachanam Vandyam Sakyam Sadasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam has to say about Sakyam. Okay, that 7-5-23-34. This is what has got to say. Sakyam means being a well-wisher of Krishna. So then this tendency is more from the mind. You see? So certain things like you can execute more from the body, more from the words. Certain aspects of Krishna consciousness can be more executed from the level of the mind. Krishna wants everyone to surrender unto him because everyone is constitutionally his servant. Therefore, as a sincere friend of Krishna, this is the temperament, one should preach this philosophy. How do you practice Sakyam? By preaching the philosophy. Somebody may say, how am I supposed to practice Sakyam? By just go and like embrace the deity? No, this is how you do it. Okay, requesting everybody to surrender to Krishna. This is an act of Sakyam. So more on that platform. Okay. Generally, the great acharyas who preach devotional service all over the world belong to the category of Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam. Prabhupada is saying that. That doesn't mean it is talking about the rasa of the acharya. It is talking about the practice of devotional service. Great acharyas, they do that. Some great acharyas like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya also came from Dravid Desh and became great preachers. They're all situated on the platform of Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. So you see, now you can see there are like two limbs of bhakti mentioned together. So for both, the temperament is like that. For preaching. So preaching is the application of Sakhyam Atmanivedanam, or on the Sakhyam Atmanivedanam can be practiced through the agency of preaching. You see, that's the more practical aspect. How do you do that otherwise? Because generally then devotees get like, they have lots of questions about this, like what is Atmanivedanam then? And especially I have noticed, like correct me if I'm wrong, I've noticed that generally when we recite that verse, this very verse, Shavanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam, then what happens? Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. And something comes to my mind, oh, Dasya is a ras, Sakhya is a ras. What happened to the Vatsalya? And is Atmanivedanam is Madhurya? No, these are all limbs of bhakti. These are not rasas what you're talking about, because rasa cannot be practiced. Limb of bhakti can be. So wait, let me move ahead with that. So anybody has any questions regarding this? Otherwise, I'll move ahead to the next section. All right. So let's see how Prabhupada is also in his purports to these different limbs, how we can find out the mood and mission of Prabhupada in these very limbs when we are executing these limbs. Our Kondracharya is Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada on many occasions. This is like part of my Samputika, which I commented. Stated that Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, to be the law book of devotional service. Of course, we know there are evidences to what I'm writing. Okay. It is to be noted that as early as 1960, this is like my observation, he stated the verse, he started the verse for verse translation and commentary on on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which he intended to name Science of Devotion. That book. As evident from the proposed list of books he intended to print as attached in his 1962 version of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the statement which I'm making here, if you want corroboration of the fact, I can show you here on the screen itself, but I'm moving ahead. So if somebody wants to evidence of that, I will provide it. Okay. And then Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami's book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, also there with illustrations about this writing. This book is the law book of devotional service. So when this is the law book and Bhagavatam being the source book, so I found it but natural that these two be connected. This is what Tamal Krishna Maharaj has to say about the same incidents. The Nectar of Devotion was meant especially for the initiated devotees. Prabhupada described it as the law book of ISKCON. So Prabhupada is writing law book of devotional service, but Tamal Krishna Maharaj is saying law book of ISKCON. In that it presented the complete science of Bhakti Yoga with all the do's and don'ts of devotional service. This is from a Servant of the Servant book. So having said that, so we see what is the basic mood of Prabhupada now, corroborating it with the 7 purposes of ISKCON, to propagate the consciousness of Krishna as it is revealed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, or in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So somebody may ask, okay, so it is mentioning Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So then Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is out of the picture. So if that's not mentioned over there, then how come Prabhupada is saying that this is the law book of devotional service? Or better yet, let me up the bet by saying it doesn't even mention Chaitanya Chaitamrita. So is Chaitanya Chaitamrita not part of the modern mission of Prabhupada? So do we understand the spirit of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is carried forward in Chaitanya Chaitamrita and in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And as we understand, when Prabhupada speaks in many places about 4 books, one of them being this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion. All that we need to know, and we need for devotional service. One of them being Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the other three being Chaitanya Chaitamrita, Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So that's the basic propagation. The Krishna consciousness will be propagated with the mood. That means the preaching will be done with the mood and the message of Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Otherwise, what are we preaching? All right. So let me come to some personal application. I can talk about my personal conviction and realization about this subject. When we talk about devotional service and we understand devotional service is a personification of devotional service, as I used here, Bhakti Devi. Okay, so it's a personification, and we understand Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pasevanam is there. And more elaborately, when we elaborate the same 9 limbs, it becomes the 64 limbs of Bhakti. So when we talk about a personality here, a Devi, that means she's a personality, and the personality has got limbs. You see, so she has got limbs. So as I understand, this my thesis intends to prove that the whole sadhana bhakti, the sadhaka can get the full benefit, can derive the full benefit of sadhana when he executes the full package of sadhana. So that's the basic idea. That's like the devotees we see in our personal experience. We also see, and I, with my own personal experience, I'm basically bringing that out. That many times I find myself and more my devotees who are like I am familiar with, and they generally have question that, Prabhu, I'm chanting for 20 years and I'm chanting for 10 years. Okay, this is something you might find humorous during our preaching. A person who is chanting for 5 years, he comes to a person chanting for 10 years and asks the question, Prabhu, I'm chanting for 5 years. There is no taste. I'm like, chanting is not working for me. I don't know. Like, I'm just chanting for the sake of chanting. And that preacher, who is like certainly senior to him, he, let me remove this slide for now. And that preacher, who's certainly a more senior devotee to him, he says, yeah, don't worry about this. Chant, keep on chanting. You see, this is like what the acharyas say. This is what Prabhupada says. This is like some devotees say, and da-di-da, and something, some my experience and other things. And we encourage that person to go on chanting. But the story doesn't end there. Rather, the story begins from there. Now, after the guy is gone, this preacher, who is 10 years into Krishna consciousness chanting, he gets up and he goes to, or he picks up the phone and rings up that other devotee he is connected to, who is like 15 years or 20 years into Krishna consciousness, and asks this very same question. Prabhu, I'm chanting for 10 years and this is not working, this is that thing. And guess what? He also gets more or less the same answer, which he just gave to his own, like his own, the person he is connected to. So my having undergone this experience, at one point in time, I was faced with this question. How come is it that everybody has got the same question regardless of his experience in Krishna consciousness? And everybody means like generically, not exactly everybody means everybody will have the question, but many. And it struck me, it hit me that one of the reasons it is so because probably I am not eating the full diet, not taking care of all the limbs of bhakti. If the Sampradaya Acharya Rupa Goswami has, mind you, this is another very interesting revelation. There's an interesting discovery I made, and I confirmed that with Manu Maharaj, that this 64 limbs, as we read, is not, there is no verse in the Shastra which corroborates all the 64 limbs like this. This template of 64 limbs of bhakti has been made by Rupa Goswami. And that is the contribution of Rupa Goswami. And that is why he is the Sampradaya Acharya. And that is why we follow his program. So if you don't follow the whole program, that program was given to him by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who spoke all these limbs, and he said, both to Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, then you must write extensively about these. Rupa Goswami doing that in Nectar of Devotion and in Ujjwal Nilmani, and Sanatana Goswami doing the very same thing in Hari Bhakti Vilas. So this is the program given to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So if the whole program is not accepted as it is, so the result, I think, will be proportionate to the degree I am executing the limbs of bhakti. To that degree, the effects of Krishna consciousness will be there on me. I figured out specifically, yeah, Radhika Nagar Prabhu raised his hand. Yes, Prabhuji.
I'm a little puzzled here. I'm sorry, because my it's not a challenging question, although it may appear to be. That, on one hand, your thesis is telling us how the Srimad Bhagavatam is, is a complete guide to the science of devotion, and all the 64 limbs can be found in the Bhagavatam.
Yes.
But you're telling us that there is no scripture that's what I understood, that there is no scripture which describes those 64 items as such. You inquired from Banu Maharaj, and he said that it was all composed by Srila Rupa Goswami. So
yeah, let me elaborate on that.
Yeah.
The 64 limbs, just like this template of 64 limbs, as it starts from Guru Padashraya and like when it finishes in the Panchanga Bhakti, this sequence that has been given by Rupa Goswami. So all the 64 limbs, obviously it's coming from Bhagavatam, but they are like, like they're scattered. So Rupa Goswami, what he did, he bought them in the form of like first 10, next 10, 20, 44 additional items, the last 5 being the most important ones, that kind of like all this categorization and what do you call that? How do you, how much emphasis is to be given to which part? All these things. This has been like done by Rupa Goswami, and that is the special prerogative.
Yeah. How did you say that is in the Bhagavatam? What word you use? Statute? I didn't understand. You said, how is it in the Bhagavatam? In the Bhagavatam, it's like you use a word I didn't understand.
Yeah, it's like scattered.
It's scattered. Okay, scattered.
It's scattered. It's like not like, just like we find Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padsenam. This is something, very concise. But like what you talk about, Acharya Upasnam, that is okay, find at one point in time. There's another point in time. So it's like that.
My understanding of this is that actually Rupa Goswami composed the Bhagavatam on the basis of the Chaitanya Siksha that he got.
Yes.
Rupa from Mahaprabhu.
I already mentioned that.
and so did Sanatana Goswami.
I
And-
mentioned that.
Yeah, so, but if we go one by one with the items of sadhana bhakti, are we going to find the same explanation that you found for those two items for each one? That's my question. You pick up you pick up Sadharma
Yes.
Picha, and you pick up
Yes, yes.
Paratraya, okay? And you show how, what, and why, okay?
Yes,
For those
yes.
two limits. But is your claim that you can do that for the 64 items?
Yes.
No, no.
That's what my whole Samputika is all about.
Okay, 1 second. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, you can claim that. Okay. So obviously in one lecture you cannot do it,
Yes, that's why.
but it will be interesting. We'll put you to
Yeah,
test.
when I submit the
At
whole
end of the class,
Samputika,
we'll put you to test. Yeah.
I'm trying, and I'm also trying to, like, in the part of the Samputika, I'll try my best to make it like a
Yeah.
table so that
Yeah,
it
yeah.
can be seen at a glance.
Okay.
So, okay, let me continue. I have got only a remaining part of my personal conviction and realization on this. I'm continuing with that. When I was talking about that, like, I figured out that like the whole Krishna consciousness, this is a whole package, and if every limb has been given its due attention, then this lack of taste, this lack of, like, how should I put it? This no, this idea that, like, I'm not finding bhakti very much interesting, so we won't encounter such a situation. So just like, for example, yeah, it's just like, I just put up this point to, like, come to this the specific. Say, for example, a person, it's like a Devi, as we see here, like the Bhakti Devi we see here. So all the limbs. So if I may say that the face is the most important or the most visible aspect of a person, that's okay. Or maybe the heart is the closest of part of a person. Okay, given. But then that doesn't make the other limbs of bhakti or other limbs of the body as expendable. So if every limb of the body has been given its due share, so then the whole bhakti, it can operate as a well-oiled machinery. That's the point. Generally, devotees tend to do all of the like all the stress is, like, they give on maybe a few limbs, say for example chanting, at the expense of everything else. But that's not that's not the mood and mission of our any of our acharya. They have addressed bhakti as a whole package and not as piecemeal systems. So if only when we use all the limbs of bhakti in our life will the whole package of bhakti is gonna have the full effect and give us the result of bhakti, which is like starting with like kleshagni, and we find it like all auspicious, and then as we move ahead, and if we are rewarded by Krishna with bhava bhakti, so then our life is perfect. This aspect of bhakti, say for example, Nirmalya Dhriti. This is a personal confession. When in the beginning days, when I would be given a Nirmalya garland by a devotee, which has been offered to Krishna, I will place that garland and immediately remove that garland. My conception was like placing a garland on ourselves and keeping the garland is a sign of false ego, because that's what the politicians do. So I have my experience was of the material world was like the only person I've seen the people I've seen wearing garlands were politicians or maybe a dead body. Then you have placed a garland. Otherwise, it's the politicians. I didn't want it to be didn't want it to be identified with the politicians. So then I used to think that, oh, this garland, immediately remove it. It's only after I read Bhagavatam and I heard a few devotees and I basically saw advanced devotees keeping garlands. Let's say, for example, Janivas Prabhu keeping garland all through the day. Pankaj Chandra Prabhu used to have that. And then I figured it out. These devotees don't have false egos to have garlands to be put on. So I could actually appreciate that, okay, wearing garland is accepting the nirmalya, accepting the Mahaprasad of Krishna, and that is part of our sadhana bhakti. It's not part of false ego. So I felt that like certain aspects were not very much understood by me, but they were understood when I read the book Bhagavatam and I saw the personal Bhagavatam. And there was like more, and then I also started practicing, and I feel that added up to my Krishna consciousness. Parikrama, another thing. So I still have this is one of my weaknesses. I don't do very much of parikramas. Many times devotees asked me to go on Govardhan Parikrama, being like situated in Delhi, Govardhan being like close by. I always find an excuse to evade that. But I understand that importance of parikrama and seeing that in the lives of such great devotees as Sanatana Goswami. So that is one of the very basic and fundamental forms of paying obeisances. Parikrama is another form of paying obeisances. So I only pray to all of you devotees to bless me so that my tamagun for parikrama that vanishes, and I can take more and more opportunity to do parikrama of Giriraj parikrama of Vrindavan, so that I can supplicate and surrender more and more to Krishna. Srimurti Darshanam, this was another aspect. I was not very much there was no training actually. And what Srimurti Darshan actually means. I felt that the Srimurti Darshan is there for these devotees who do this deity worship, and they should be decorating the deities. And every day, like staying in the temple, like every day in the morning, you do within half an hour Mangalarti, and then again you come for the Guru Puja and everything. And I figured out that I don't even remember what color of dress the deities are wearing after I leave the altar. Because there was no real darshan going on. And no wonder, if there is no, I can't even remember the color of the dress the deities are wearing. No wonder that the deities won't be staying with me in my heart and my consciousness throughout the day. No way. That's not happening. So that is another aspect I could work. That was all thanks to Mayapur Academy when I came there for the diploma course. And during the diploma course, they taught us dressing. Suddenly, I became very good with darshan. Suddenly, I started standing there for half an hour because now I could see the turban of Krishna. Suddenly, I could see. I couldn't see that for 15 years of my life. But now that I had to do the dressing myself, suddenly one fine morning I got up and I saw that okay, I can now actually see what Krishna is dressing like. I can remember what he is wearing. So those part of the sadhana limbs which were very much missing in my experience. And when I could, by the grace of the devotees, I could appreciate and inculcate those aspects of sadhana in my life, I found my sadhana, my devotional life far more fulfilling. So in conclusion, I will recite a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, and I will orally conclude while concluding this with this verse. Yat padam buruha dhyanat samhitam aghyayam imam. Simply by meditating upon his lotus feet, I have been able to study and appreciate this great literature, Bhagavatam, and simply by this, I could also relate all the 64 limbs of bhakti back to the Bhagavatam, to what they are, how they can be practiced, and what will be the benefit that will be derived. And Bhagavatam being the one source book through which all the 64 limbs can be traced back to, and whatever perfection of human life one wants, right from prema right up to prema bhakti, can be achieved through Srimad Bhagavatam. So with this, I rest my case. If I have questions, comments. Let me. Yeah, Radhika Nagar. Yes, please. Sorry.
I'm just wondering, have you seen any acharya who has commented on the Bhagavatam? Or, well, obviously, it will have to be post Rupa Goswami,
Mhm.
because who has established that, yes, the Bhagavatam is, like, the person I would think more will be someone like Jiva Goswami, or who has extensively commented on the Bhagavatam. Have you seen any of them saying that the 64 items are described in the Bhagavatam?
No, not really like that. But that's my thesis, that it is.
Okay, so I have one here, for example, like one should not be very enthusiastic about constructing costly temples or monasteries.
Yeah, that's there.
Where?
That's there. Let me pull it out for you. This is from 12th and 14th item, 12, 13, and 14, all three items. And allow me to use my notes here from the chapter. Here it is. This is verse number 713.8 from Bhagavatam. And here is the verse. Shishyanuvandanam vati trayam na shishyan anumandina granthan naiva bhashet bahun na vakyayam upasujita namanabhi arambhet kvachit. Here.
What is the reference again of this verse?
713.8. The whole verse, along with the purport and with the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as well. Here. So here Prabhupada is giving the whole purport to it. And you see, sannyasis sometimes indulge in material opulence by unnecessarily constructing many temples and monasteries. But actually such endeavors should be avoided. Temple and monastery, it's a very, very strong purport, in fact. It's a very, very strong purport. I like this purport. So it says, like it should not be for lazy and crazies. The Prabhupada is saying it should be strictly off limits and only for practicing devotees should be allowed in. So he's saying. So here also the Vishwanath Chakravarti, he's quoting Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur to saying, explain the word Arambhan means Mathadi Vyaparan, attempts to construct temples and monasteries. The first business of a sannyasi is to preach. But if by the grace of Krishna, facilities are available, he may construct temples and monasteries to give shelter to serious students of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, such temples and monasteries are not needed. So,
Okay, I will ask more, but other devotees have questions, so please.
yes,
There is
maybe.
2 minutes left.
Yeah, this is Rasalvu.
Only ask one or two questions. If somebody has question, maybe somebody can go ahead. I have a question also.
This is Srinivas Pandit, Shivas Pandit.
Thank you, Rasal Prabhu. So, Dandavat Pranam Jai Srila Prabhupada. So the question I had is, for the 64 items in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami gave supporting verses wherever he could to support. So it's easy to make the connection. But for those items that he did not, how did you get the connection? I'm just a little curious. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, I didn't find even a single verse that didn't have any connection.
So in Bhakti
All the
Rasamrita
64.
Sindhu, all the 64 have Bhagavatam verses?
Yeah, all of them. Every last one of them.
Where?
In Bhagavatam.
No, but I mean, where did Rupa Goswami quote them? Because there are many verses quoted from Bhagavatam in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but not as many as.
Not all of them. That was my thesis. That is my
Yeah.
thesis. See, Rupa Goswami's style, that we have to understand the Rupa Goswami's style of presenting Srimad of Nectar of Devotion. And that is what has been pulled by Prabhupada as their dedication. Nana Shastra Vichara Naiku Nipano. Their expertise is to use different scriptures to prove what is Sadharma, what is Prema Dharma. Whereas for me, the job was actually easier. I didn't have to go to all the different scriptures. I had one book, which is Paramahansa Samhita, which is the book which can give us Prema Bhakti. That was Bhagavatam. I had that confidence. I prayed to Rupa Goswami. I prayed to Srila Prabhupada, opened it, and I ended up finding each Sanskrit words for each of the 64 limbs of Bhakti. It is there. And not just some scant link, but exact Sambandha Abhidya Prayojan. It's possible. Either it is Ekadashi, even those which are difficult ones. Say, for example, the verses from 11 to 19 are considered the most difficult ones. So, say, for example, the 19th item, which is basically all the Seva Aparads. So, but all the Seva Aparads has been mentioned by Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam purport. So, the purport of Prabhupada is not different from the Bhagavatam, because for that, we need to go back to Chandaka Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which hints that even the purports and commentaries given by that kind of Acharya is part of the Vedas. It is not like separate from the Vedas. So going by that strength, if we take that's the rich tradition of Gaudiya Vaishnavism I fell back upon. So the commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam are being part of Bhagavatam give us everything what we require. Everything. Time is done. My time is done. Yeah. So I sincerely seek feedback. Is the time to take
Can you
feedback?
stop the recording now? Stop the recording,
Oh,
please.
sorry.